Konnichiwa and welcome everybody back to Chrono Reviews. It's time for yet another dinosaur figure review, and this time it's another Beasts of the Mesozoic Raptor series, Raptor. And this time it's the Balaur Bondoc, or Balaur, I'm not exactly sure which one is correct, but I think it's Balaur. And this one is actually one of the oddballs out of this series, because the Balaur is actually these days considered, was a article written that it actually might not even be a dromaeosaurid, but belonging to the dinosaurs more closely related to birds, Avialae or Avialan dinosaurs. Never mind. They are more closely related to modern birds, and one of the earliest ones out of those were the Archaeopteryx, that was late Jurassic, I think. So basically this is a raptor that's not even a dromaeosaurid. I can't promise that I'm correct, that it's fully reclassified yet, but I read an article about it. So basically this is one early prehistoric flightless bird. And what makes it even more interesting is some anatomical features that I will point out when I show the figure itself. And the box is just as gorgeous as the others. It has nice artwork here. You can see the raptor inside there, and you can see the specs of the figure here, and the raptor drawing there. And on the back there is a fuller art picture, and it says some information about the raptor itself. And this one is actually one from Romania. So yeah, this is one of the non-Mongolian raptors, and not from the States either. So it's one of those European dinosaurs, and that's quite interesting, together with the Pyroraptor, of course, from France. And here you can see the different ones in the series as well, and I think you can slip this. Yeah, it's one of those. The instructions is behind there. It's quite stuck, so I'm not going to force it off. Alright, I have freed the Balaur out of its box, and I must say I really love this figure just by looking at it. And before going into detail on the figure itself, I'm going to go over the accessories as usual, and then go on with the figure itself. So first off, here is a base, which is pretty much the same as the others, but this one is sort of semi-sand and grass, or like some sort of moss or whatever. So it's some sort of mixed environment or transition of an environment. Maybe a savanna or something. I'm not sure, but it looks nice. And it's a little nice change from pure desert and pure green ones. And second off, there are the rod. This one is one of the first releases that didn't have a second release, so it does only have one length of the rod and the two different pieces to connect with the raptor itself. And also, of course, there are the two different toe pieces. The secondary toes for when having a foot lifted off the ground. And then there was the package backdrop, which is forest or jungle environment, which is pretty interesting considering how the base looks. Maybe some sort of sand within the woodland. I don't know. It's still a very nice background. So let's check out the figure itself. You can see there's a lot of things going on with the different parts here. For one, you can see the wing are bigger. But first up, let's check the articulation. So the neck are articulated with ball joint, and the jaw are articulated, and of course the tongue is ball jointed just like the others. The arms are ball jointed with a cut joint elbow and wing. And there's of course the torso joint. It's a little bit different in how much you can move it depending on the extra pieces on the chest and stuff. And some of them are just a little bit more willingly to move. They're a little bit looser than others, so it varies. But you can probably soften it up to move just as much on every one of them. And then of course the legs are ball jointed, and there's a knee joint and this joint here, as well as toes and sickle claws. Yep, I said claws, because this raptor have 2 sets of sickle claws. There's also the tail joint that also can be put in 2 different sockets, just like everything else, and a ball jointed tail that is also bendable. So yeah, the difference in the anatomy of this raptor is that it have 2 sickle claws. So it's basically the small claw that's usually bent backward like this are enlarged in this species. So it have double set of sickle claws, which are slightly less curved than other species. It also have a shorter tail. That's something I noticed. I guess it is sort of evolving towards having tail feathers instead of having tails in bird species. So I guess that these species are sort of evolving towards birds. And also the wing are enlarged, so it have the larger wing part here, like the Dromaeosaurus had, but it also have a unique, very large lower wing. So I guess this is another step towards being closer to birds. And this raptor also have just 2 fingers. The fossil said that it does have a 3rd finger that's so small that it's probably not even visible. So yeah, this is a 2-fingered raptor. And no, it's not related to the T-Rex because of that. And it have a unique head sculpt. It have the thicker lower leg parts like the Dromaeosaur have, but it's not covered in feather all the way down here because it have the bird feet, and it have the extra thick feather part on the chest, and I think it have an extra part around the neck as well, or maybe that's similar to some of the other raptors. I'm not really sure, but at least it have a lot of unique parts. And when it comes to the coloring on this figure, usually I'm very picky with it when it comes to blue in color schemes, because I'm more of a person who loves like black and red combos and red and purple and stuff like that. But this one, having like these black feathers contrasted with this nice sharp blue texture that looks like blue flames almost, it really catches my eye. I really love how that looks. So I must say, this one is really striking. It's like those areas that's colored like that, they really pop, and I love it. And the inside of the mouth are nicely painted, and there are nice red eyes painted on this one. And then it have a nice brown snout, and then it have a slight brown stripe there, and it's brighter on the underbelly, and it have nice like white feathers there with a little bit of pearl to the shine, just like the Pyroraptor had to the white areas as well. And it also has some like nice white here as well, and some nice blue stripe on the back. And I really love, just like the others, how the paint job of the bird skin on the yellowish bird feet are painted. It really looks nice. It's really gorgeous. So this one is catching up to be one of my favorites as well, because it's so unique and different, and it has such an interesting backstory and facts about how it's classified. It's very interesting in the evolution how this was once what would become our birds. And here you can see the Balaur Bondoc mounted on its base, and it is such a beauty. Also, I forgot to say, just like the other ones, you can store the extra toes inside of the base on pegs, but you already know that by now if you have watched any of my other Raptor reviews. So this one, the only thing that made it a little bit more complicated to pose is the enlarged wings, because they are sort of in the way sometimes for lower poses. You can always raise the wing a bit like that if you want, or pose it backwards a little bit like that. So there are ways that you can make them out of the way as well. But it's otherwise a very, very nice figure. One of the wings on the right side are slightly loose in the elbow joint. No, the hand joint itself was a little bit loose, but it still holds up. So it's not a big deal. It's a minor thing. But the colors, I say it again, the colors are gorgeous. Even though blue are not normally something I see as a favorite, if done right, it's a really neat color scheme. And this Raptor in itself not just delivers a unique, nice color scheme, it also anatomically very, very unique. And I really like that. And all those custom parts and stuff like that. I love this Raptor. So let's go on and compare it to some other species. So first off, here's the Pyroraptor, and compared to the Pyroraptor it's a little bit more robust because of some thicker parts and stuff, but Balaur Bondoc means stocky dragon. It's because the anatomy in the bones and stuff was that it was sort of less agile compared to other dromaeosaurs. That's also one of the things, because the bones have led the scientists to believe that it's not a dromaeosaur but actually an avian dinosaur, and that makes a lot of sense. But it still resembles dromaeosaurs very much. It have sickle claws and everything, but they might even been for just grappling on to branches and stuff, but it's unclear, just like with any dinosaur. But it makes sense that it would be classified differently, but just like any theropod, they have similarities, so it's not that weird that it's not a dromaeosaur but still resembles a dromaeosaur in a lot of aspects. But the Pyroraptor, together those two are probably my top two out of the lot I got so far. The Pyroraptor delivers a lot on the paint job. This one is very close. I love it that much. And both of them have nice quality to the paint job. There are barely any mistakes at all in the paint applications. And close after the Pyroraptor comes the Atrociraptor, which have a nice clean dark paint job, which I also like a lot. And you can see that the Atrociraptor have a lot deeper and thicker skull, but it is otherwise also a little bit more stocky in its build. And then there is the Velociraptor. Well, one of the two Velociraptors, and this one have a very similar skull shape to the Velociraptor, but it's not the same sculpt. I have compared them. This one have the nostrils are, for example, differently placed, and the feathers and length of the skull. The Velociraptor have a lot longer skull, but it's still one of the ones at least getting closer to what the Velociraptors skull is like. And then last but not least, okay, let's switch places with them, is the Dromaeosaurus, which is the most, well, I wouldn't say fat out of them, but it's fluffy because of extra feathers everywhere. So it's probably, this one is the one that looks most thick, but and this one is one of my favorite as well. But the Balaur and Pyroraptor lands on top, then comes the Atrociraptor, and then the Dromaeosaurus, and then sadly last the Velociraptors, because they had the most mistakes in the paint applications, and they didn't have as they have good color schemes, but they are not as striking in the same way as this. I really love that. And also last we have a size comparison with 1:6 scale Blackrock Shooter, which matches up in scale to the Raptors. And if you want to see the Raptors compared to more figures like Kenner and Mattel Raptors and human characters, as well as the Reborn Velociraptor, you can check my Velociraptor Mongoliensis review, which was the first one I reviewed out of these Raptors, and see those extra comparisons there. So in the end, the Balaur Bondoc delivers as one of my favorites, not just by being unique in design and having very weird anatomical features, which was first blamed being a dromaeosaur that lived on an island environment made it weird compared to other dromaeosaurs, but it makes sense that it's an avian instead. But it also delivers in the paint applications. They are very clean and very good. So one of my favorites, and I can really recommend this Raptor. So until next time, take care and sayonara!